Have you ever been frustrated by your quilting machine? Silly question, I know. We all have. We absolutely all have at one time or another. So as always, I'm going to chat for a jiffy while YouTube lets people know that I am here. For those of you who saw that this was scheduled for 9 o'clock and I came on at 10 or almost 10, I apologize. I did update it to 10, but somehow didn't fully process through the saving of it. I'm sure it's on me. Regardless, here we are, and we're going to chat for a few minutes. So, gosh, this mic just pulls my shirt all askew. Let's see if we can hook it to some other things in there. There we go. So it holds still. Yeah, just waiting for YouTube again to get the word out there that I am in fact live. And we're going to talk about this issue of being frustrated at your machine and what might be causing it. And then I'm going to be really open and honest with what I did today to fix the issue. So there we go. I'm seeing some people tuning in. Say hello so that I make sure that you are in the chat. All I'm looking at so far is a number. And I like to make sure people are here before I dive into the topic. There we go. Erica checking in. Fabulous. Fabulous. Good, 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 Daphne. All right, super. Okay, again, have you ever been frustrated with your quilting machine, whether your sewing machine, your sit-down long arm, or your long arm on a frame like my Stella is? And I do know that is a very silly question. We've all been frustrated at some point with something. It usually has to do with either ugly stitches or thread breaks. That is just the most common, and ugly stitches can encompass, of course, a variety of things. For me today, the issue early this morning was thread breaks, and specifically bobbin thread breaking. And it was happening chiefly when I had a new bobbin on, and I would stitch a little ways, and then all of a sudden I would feel a little tug, and then boop, the bobbin thread would have broken, and I'd be stitching with nothing. And I would take it out, clean the lint out, rethread it, undo a little bit, get a good stopping point or joining point, and start all over again, quilt for, 2 or 3 feet worth of quilting, and boop, it would happen again and again and again. So this actually did start yesterday, and I had a new bobbin on, and so I pulled a couple yards of thread off to I thought maybe it's too full, right? And that seemed to fix it that time. I progressed with that bobbin, but this morning, again, a fresh new bobbin, and it was happening again. So first off, what I usually do is the most obvious things, like maybe the bobbin's too full, so I pull a little bit off, right? Like maybe that's somehow conflicting. I was not seeing any binding on the post inside the bobbin, but it was breaking off so short that I couldn't be sure, but that's what it felt like, right? There was just this little jerk and then broken. I do have this internal kind of list of things that I run down, right? So I did some of those obvious ones. I made sure there was no lint in my bobbin casing. I cleaned out the bobbin area. I even oiled. What I didn't do is wind a fully new bobbin because I'm fairly confident in my bobbin winder. Like I wind on my machine all the time and it's pretty good, right? But that might be on your short list of things to try. Like try a different bobbin, a pre-wound bobbin, or wind another one. At any rate, I didn't. I'll tell you what I did. I keep in my studio an extra bobbin casing. There's nothing special about it. It's just another one. Here's the kind of vulnerable part about it. It's not really a fix because whatever's happening, it is mechanical. Our machines are mechanical. There is something in the threading, in the winding of the bobbin, in the cleanliness of the machine. There's something that's causing that break. So I did try a few things that seemed like obvious ones, and they did not answer. So I chose the quick fix, which was just whack it in another bobbin case, and lo and behold, no problems. So I still don't know what the actual problem was, and I may never know what that actual problem was. Chances are down the road, some fine day, I'm going to be quilting again, and something's going to happen again, and then I'll go back and put the first one on. And I've done that before, and I don't see any difference, right? I have the same tension setting on my TOA gauge. It is the same bobbin in the new casing, but something, I don't know, that just masters it. So I'm being totally vulnerable here today. This is sometimes my fix. New bobbin casing, maybe new spool of thread. And I don't really know 100% what that issue was, but I choose to do the quick fix over spending time and additional frustration on the thing. So have any of you ever done that? Now be honest here. Be honest. Hello, hello, Catherine, Carolyn, Diana, Kim, Liz. Janice, mostly just scared to take on a project with a lot of right to left. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Janice. I like to know that I have a fallback when I take on those two, because there are days that the machine doesn't like that, and that's not as easy of a fix. Cheryl, when you have a top thread break, do you always cut the bobbin thread before starting back? Yes, I always do. Mostly because when you have a top thread break or a bobbin one, it will likely have broken with a yank, and it will have messed up some of the tension on previous stitches. And I like to back up anyways to go to a better, less visible, maybe more secure, like in a seam allowance place for doing my start over. And you can see that in lots of my unscripted videos, how I back up and what I look for as a good splicing place on the quilt. But yes, I always cut the bobbin thread, back up a little bit, and start afresh with 2 thread tails. Otherwise, you're almost guaranteed to get a thread nest on the back if you were to just start stitching again. You get bobbin loops, etc. Okay, just reading through. Gabrielle from Germany, awesome, thanks for tuning in. Catherine, I've tried the same thing and it works. Yes, yes. Jennifer, several times, thank you. You're making me feel a lot better. So many miles, I need to get an extra bobbin case. It's on my list. I do think so. And as a corollary to this, people like Jamie Wallen, for example, Quilter's Apothecary, who's been quilting for forever. He's the grandfather of machine quilting. He'll talk about reasons why your bobbin case may run amok, and it doesn't necessarily mean throw it out and get a new one. Like, these are expensive. They're $50-ish for my machine. He actually has a tool for rounding out that bobbin case in case it's been dropped and is unround. So far, I've not found that to be an issue. Like I said, I will literally down the road come back to this one and then go back to that one. I know it will happen. It's happened to me a couple of times before. So I don't think it's a broken or faulty or defective bobbin case at this point. I'm sure there is something, and I don't honestly know what it is. But here I am, being vulnerable and honest. This is how it goes in my studio. That's how it goes. Kim, try giving that problematic bobbin case good rubbing alcohol soak and floss, an alcohol soak thread behind the bobbin tension spring. Machine oil can gunk up a case. That's a great point, Kim. So just doing an extra thorough clean, so not just lint, right? But even oily type of buildup. That's a really good point, and another good reason to not toss your bobbin case till you've done that kind of deep clean, right? It's kind of like stripping conditioner off your hair. It's just got to be done from time to time. Christine, I find that I need to loosen my bobbin when the thread gets lower. Yeah, I hear a lot of people talking about that, adjusting their tension as the bobbin gets lower. I gotta say, I don't do that, and my bobbin was not significantly lower. Like, I was still in the first probably 15 yards of quilting on that bobbin. So, but spooling a couple yards off wasn't fixing it in this case. Carolyn, I've had this with pre-wound bobbins, but never with bobbins I wind. And yes, I switch cases. Interesting, really interesting. Janice, do you mark your bobbin case? I don't at this point, Janice, because I've not noticed that either of them is actually faulty. So it doesn't really matter to me which one I'm using, just the one that's going to give me the results I need today so I can get quilting, right? Kim is following up. It can be that particular bobbin or bobbin case combo that's an issue. Slight variances in the two might make them not work well together. True. To the naked eye, I can't see that. Maybe that's true, and maybe Jamie Wallen's tool at this point would be helpful. So maybe I'll have to look into that. Monica, greetings from Germany. I agree with Kim. Recommend also having bobbin springs if your case has them. So the bobbin spring is the little spring that's inside there. And I've got to agree with that. I don't actually keep spares because I have the whole spare bobbin case, but you could. They're an inexpensive spare, and they are a critical part. I just know that I judge that. That's one of the first things I look at. Does my bobbin, have spring in it, and is that working effectively? That is certainly a crucial part of working bobbins. So, okay, time out for the bobbin case. Maybe that's all it is. Now you just go sit and think about what you've done for a little while, right? Love that. Love it. Okay. Couple things I wanted to say. One is a follow-up on yesterday. Yesterday I was talking about why I love free motion quilting, and kind of top of my list was creativity and the freedom to quilt whatever I want, and also savings in time and savings in money. Bobbin with Brittany, who's on here lots of times, although I haven't seen her yet today, made a comment, and she said it so well. There are a few other things that are really valuable things about quilting free motion, whether you're at a sit-down machine or a long arm, that I didn't think actually to specifically talk about yesterday, but I know to be true in my own quilting world. Things like things that are stressors if you've got a computer quilting for you, or if you're quilting from the back side of the machine. This would be things like popped seams that you maybe wouldn't notice if you're not standing right there doing it. Things like bulky seam allowances. I do talk about this one quite a bit. I love that when I'm quilting free motion, I can fudge my design, even if it's a, repeated fan design like the one I'm doing here. I can still fudge it so that I can literally quilt over or very near those bulky seam allowances and stitch them right down. And certainly I don't run into my machine pushing them out of the way. So these are a couple more reasons that quilting free motion from the front of your machine, being in ultimate control of where the stitches land, is rewarding and effective. It's a really great way to quilt. So with that in mind, let me tell you again just a little bit about what I've been talking about this week, and I do see comments coming in. I'll pop back to them. My free motion quilting masterclass enrollment is open through tomorrow night, through Friday evening. And this masterclass teaches a whole series, there's more than 25, of the designs like the one which you can't really see on this quilt today because I don't have my side lighting on, but it's what I call Baptist fans, my freehand adaptation of the traditional Baptist fan design. And so in the masterclass, I demonstrate at both a long arm machine and at my domestic sewing machine all of these different designs step by step, high contrast thread on fabric, so you can see every little detail. And my nature is to not only teach you this roster of designs that you can quilt, but also try to impart to you what makes a good design, how you can edit designs that aren't working well, so that you can go on and create your own variations or your own entirely new designs and know how to get to successful ones that you can use in your own quilting journey. So that's a huge part of the class. Also, in my own quilting story, there was a period of time where I had this ideal of a quilt I wanted to do, and I did not have the skill set to match it, but I had about 7 or 8 months of time. And I found ways to shortcut or just shorten the learning time for mastering precision skills. So that practice method is included in the masterclass too. It's not a new concept. Deliberate practice is something that people use in all kinds of fields and all kinds of skills and mastering things, but I've applied it to quilting and just showing that your skills today and your skills even 6 weeks from now can grow significantly by doing this intentional, deliberate type of practice. So all those things are in the masterclass. The different designs, what's in every one of the modules, you can find all those details on my website, StitchedBySusan.com. Look for the Learn tab, and you can scroll down to the Free Motion Quilting Masterclass there and find all the details. In addition, there are frequently asked questions there. If you're interested in, how it's delivered or what kind of support is around it, the whole masterclass opens upon enrollment. And I do have a selection of live Q&A sessions and so forth that come up over the next 6 weeks that support the students that enroll in it. So details are there. Plus, you can always email support@StitchedBySusan.com if you have any more questions about it. We'd be happy to answer them. My assistant Erin and I are standing by. Okay. Gabrielle, I use 2 bobbin coils for another color. That's an option too. I keep tons of bobbins of different colors, so I don't necessarily keep my casings for different colors, but that is certainly an option. So Many Miles is asking, how is your red cup attached to your machine? Your name is Dawn. Fantastic. It is just by a magnet. Let me pull this forward just a little so you can see. I've got a little magnetic bar affixed to my machine, glued, and I've got a magnet inside my cup. So that just pops on there. And I just have a secondary cup because it's easier to pop in and out. Honestly, I wouldn't have to. This one lifts off easily. So you can see the cup is not permanently affixed, but enough that it stays up there quite nicely. And it's just for my thread snips, and I throw my marker and seam ripper in there as well, just for cuz. Okay, Anne just joined. Eden, hello from South Africa. Lovely. Janice, looking forward to the t-shirt quilt tomorrow. You bet. I've got to get this one done and get that t-shirt quilt loaded today. I got to get going. So many miles. Dawn, I'm purposely learning free motion before doing any automation because I feel like I'm learning about my machine and setup in a more meaningful way. I'm with you on that. Now, I came into machine quilting via free motion and knew that I loved that from the beginning. I'm a really late bloomer. I do have a computer behind me. You can see that. I've only had that for about 2 years. But I totally agree with Dawn. It's like, it's hard for a kid to learn how to read after they have watched hundreds and thousands of movies because it's so easy to absorb information visually from a movie in quick bites, and it's a muscle to learn how to read. I do think free motion quilting is a little bit like that. If you start with a computer and you're kind of used to that perfection, it's a bit difficult to go back to being a kindergartner because you're gonna feel like that when you start these free motion designs. However, it's totally doable. So if you're motivated to do it, I certainly have students who have come at quilting that way. Started with computerized and learned free motion afterwards. Just know you need some grace for yourself and be prepared. Be prepared for the learning curve that it's going to be. But I agree with Dawn entirely. It's easier to do free motion first. Zandra, finally here live. Awesome. We've been conversing via email. I'm glad to see you here. Darlene's talking about using command strips and hooks. That way, if I don't like where I place something, I can easily move it. That's actually a super idea, Darlene, rather than my permanently glued on magnet. I would have to work to get it off. Janice, too, is saying that same thing. Yep. Good. You guys are yards ahead of me. I should have listened to you first. But anyway, I had these magnets that I just did. It's like a double stick tape is what's holding it on. So, all right, I think that's it for today's topic. I am coming live still every day this week through Saturday. Now, tomorrow I probably won't do a snippet because I'm going to have my Flames quilt loaded. I don't know. If I think of a great topic, I may come on beforehand and chat with you a bit. I'll have to think about that, and I'll schedule it this afternoon if I'm going to do that, so you can find the little snippet. But at 9 a.m. tomorrow Pacific time, I will be working on a huge t-shirt quilt with firefighters type t-shirts on it. So I'm going to quilt flames on it, which will be a fun one. Also a design that is in the masterclass. Note that in my Friday live streams, I don't teach quilting designs. You can see a lot of them at play. They're not always super visible because I'm working on an actual quilt, right? So I'll be talking more about the quilt, the project as a whole, but you will get to see the flames smoking across that quilt. So look forward to seeing any of you that can join then. Liz is saying cleaned rails and wheels this morning. Yay! I'm out there making a difference in the world. So thanks for joining. It's been a pleasure, and I will chat with you again tomorrow.